Okay, we're looking at plant cells and how they differ from animal cells. And this is just laying the groundwork for when we get into things like photosynthesis and water movement through plants. Cells are the basic membrane-bound units in organisms. They contain the fundamental molecules of life. And when you're comparing animal and plant cells, they both contain cytoplasm, and that's a material that's jelly-like that makes up much of the cell inside of the cell membrane, except for the nucleus. The cell membrane is also found in both animals and plants, and it's semi-permeable, and it's surrounding the cytoplasm. It's also known as plasma membrane, so you'll see it both ways. And both animal cells and plant cells contain a nucleus, and that's the body within a cell that controls its activities, including inheritance. And so when you're looking at this picture here, you'll see on the right we've got three things that are only found in plant cells, and those are chloroplast, vacuole, and cell walls, and I'll talk about what those are in a moment. So here's just a graphic to compare the structures of cells between animal cells and plant cells. And you can see there is no cell wall when you're talking about animals. Only plants have cell walls. Shapes in animal cells tend to be irregular, while plant cells are fixed in shape. And chloroplasts are only found in plant cells. Okay, vacuoles are things that are only found in plant cells, and it contains a watery sap. This is also where you're going to find things like dissolved nutrients, enzymes, and some of the pigments such as anthocyanins, and we'll talk about those a little bit later in the quarter. It's where you're going to have waste storage and export. It provides turgor pressure, and that's what forces the plasma membrane against the cell wall and makes especially herbaceous plants stand up tall. The chloroplast is a body containing chlorophyll, and that's where photosynthesis occurs. And the cell wall, as I said, is only in plants, and it is made of cellulose, which is a complex carbohydrate, and it's found in these fine threads called microfibrils. So you can see in this picture we've got two sets of plant cells, and on the left these are plants that have good turgor, or cells that have good turgor pressure, and on the right they don't. So if you had a plant, especially herbaceous, on the right, chances are it's going to be wilting at this point. So cell wall structure is both primary and secondary, and primary cell wall is made of cellulose, while the secondary cell wall is often lignified. Lignin is a component of wood, and so these tend to be harder, and we'll talk about that as well a little bit later. The middle lamella is made of pectins, and it binds these two cell walls together. So plant cells will keep plant cell walls will keep cells from rupturing under turgor pressure. They also will provide cell-to-cell communication. Chloroplasts are where you're going to find chlorophyll pigments, and there are different types of chlorophyll pigments. We'll talk about that in a few weeks. This is where the sun's energy is captured. It's turned into stored chemical energy such as carbohydrates. It uses carbon dioxide and releases oxygen. Within the chloroplast, you're going to find the thylakoid and stroma. A thylakoid is a flattened sac. It contains pigment. This is where photosynthesis takes place, and a stack of thylakoids are called granum. Stroma is the fluid surrounding the grana, and this is where the final part of photosynthesis completes. It's where the chemical changes are completed. Plasmodesmata are fine strands of cytoplasm that pass through cell walls. This connects the adjacent cells. There's control valves involved, and molecules and substances will move back and forth as needed. Mitochondria are found in both animals and plant cells. This is where cellular respiration occurs, and we will talk about that in a few weeks. It's the power generator of the cell. It converts oxygen and nutrients into ATP, and ATP stores and supplies the cell with needed energy.